Okay. Hello. I hope everybody had a wonderful Thanksgiving. I shared with you a little bit last week about what our plans were for the bye week. We got a little bit of work on Tuesday and Wednesday and gave the kids some time off. I think they needed it desperately after 9 straight games and all the stuff that we've been through. We have a tremendous challenge, obviously, this week with Clemson coming into town. We'll have to do a great job through preparation, focus, and practice to give ourselves a chance against a incredibly talented football team. A couple personnel notes. I think you all know about Elijah Bowick. Daryl Simmons has also decided to transfer. My conversation with him was he desperately wants to get on the field, just considering, going the 1AA route, trying to go get some playing time, also dealing with some family issues. And then, the one of note is Quincy Patterson. And I think Quincy will issue a statement here shortly. Quincy and I had many conversations about this. The timing of it, I think he mentions it in his statement is a little bit odd, and I can kind of add some context to that to help Quincy out. And just, in the game the other week, he got hit on the thumb on his throwing hand. It swelled up pretty good, it was swollen up pretty well. And, couldn't really grip a football. So I think, I'm not sure that he'd been able to play for us these last couple of weeks. I think that aided in that decision. But I just want to just publicly thank Quincy for his time here. Just a fantastic young man, played a vital role on our football team. Quincy knows how I feel about him and his folks, and we stand ready to help him in any way we can moving forward. I'm sure when the news hits, his phone will be blowing up with a lot of people trying to find out about him, and our phones will be blowing up too. And we'll have nothing but great things to say about him moving forward. I look forward to watching him play and getting on the field on a more consistent basis. So, questions?
David Teal, you want to start?
Justin, last week you mentioned that you had your assistants breaking down everything. You wanted to essentially assess the entire operation. You guys are 14th in the league in third down conversions. Was that one area that you all analyzed during the open week? And if so, did you make any conclusions?
Yeah, we haven't been very efficient in our opportunities to use 2 downs to get it to a 4th down and more manageable. We haven't been very efficient in that either. So it's a pretty in-depth dive of schematically, philosophically what we're doing. I like philosophically how we're trying to handle those things, but we need to do a better job of cutting those down to either through scheme or through better execution to get into a little bit more manageable situation. And then, and certainly was one of the things that we worked on in our couple days of practice last week.
You are a former quarterback. You have coached quarterbacks. Among those you have competed against or played against, where does Trevor Lawrence rank?
Oh, every now and again you come up against a guy, or you see a guy, or you get a chance to coach a guy that you really say there's nothing this guy can't do. And when you look at Trevor, what he's been able to accomplish, the efficiency of his play, his ability to run the ball basically when they need him to, but deliver the ball down the field and run the offense. And by all indications, he seems to be a great leader as well. So, probably going to be the number one pick in the draft, deservedly so. I can't imagine a more talented. There's certainly be a learning curve for him at the next level, but a more talented or a guy. I can't imagine a more talented or a guy with a higher ceiling than what his potential is moving forward.
Mike Nisley?
Yeah, you said, kind of back to that audit you guys did, was there anything that surprised you on the offensive side of the ball that came out of that review, or anything that kind of stood out in terms of what your assistants put together?
I think, you go into it with some notions of what you think it's going to say, but you try to go into it with an open mind. And so I would say, by and large, if we would have filled it out before looking at it all, it's fairly similar to what we thought it was going to look like. But there's always a thing or two that you're better at than you thought, or maybe not as good at, or that you need to do more of. And, that's basically, what you're trying to find out is, what can we do to help our personnel, be more effective and ultimately help us moving forward.
And in the transfers, I know you guys can handle a certain amount of attrition. You lost 12 players from 2017, 10 were transfers, 7 from 2018. Is that an amount that is there, or is that too many? When you look around kind of the league, is there, a number that you guys kind of, or percentage, do you feel like you're losing too many transfers, or is it sort of par for what it?
No, I mean, there seems to be this quest to get on the field. I mean, we're not losing guys that are moving up and being incredibly productive at other places. We're losing guys that are desperate to get on the field. Now, Quincy is an exception to that, obviously, and the quarterback position in itself is unique. Like, I don't know that very many people have the three guys that we've had throughout this season, and we knew that we weren't going to keep all three of those guys. That's just unrealistic. But we've lost guys that have been dealing with issues or wanted to drop down or try to get on the field, and it's not like we've lost guys that have gone on to be productive at other places. In fact, we've actually picked up guys that have added to productivity here and added to locker room chemistry. So, all in all, I'd say it's been a net win for us.
And you mentioned before kind of what this coming off season would look like with transfers. Have you thought about how you're going to handle conversations? Is it going to change at all just because with the rule changes and everything, it's going to be different? I mean, how do you feel like it'll change your kind of those discussions for you?
I guess I would say the other thing is, like, the thing about these guys is at least they're going to actively go try and play somewhere next semester. You know what I mean? Like, to me, that's I get it. Like, it's the guys that want to sit around for a whole semester and not do anything and then move on, that it's a little bit of an eye roll. But these guys, they're actively looking for places to go. They're all dealing with their own issues that they're trying to get worked out, whatever those may be. But I don't know. We'll continue to evaluate the changing landscape of how this all looks as we go through it. I mean, Mike, it's we're sitting on the precipice of unprecedented change in the middle of a pandemic. So I don't know. Between name, image, and likeness and legislation and all the things that are going on, it's just going to change everything. And I'm not really sure anybody knows what it's actually going to look like.
Thanks. Andy?
Yeah, Justin, what is your current situation like at quarterback? I know Hendon had a stinger or whatever it was with his arm last week. I know Braxton's been beat up. But does Knox move up into a backup role or a third string role now?
Yes, and the good thing is Braxton is healed. I mean, he broke 3 toes in practice several weeks ago. And, I mean, I don't know if you can more severely break something or less severely, but he broke them really well. Like, he smashed the snot out of them. And so he has been limited. been able to move around and function, but one wrong cut or whatever, and it hurts like the dickens, as you can imagine. So he is fully healed from that, which obviously makes you feel better. And yeah, Knox will move into that role. Hendon is healthy.
And with Brent Venables on the other side, he seems to kind of do it differently with the personnel changing each year. What do you see from him this year that group does particularly well on the defensive side?
Well, it starts with their personnel, and that's not to take anything away from Coach Venables. I mean, he's done a fine job for a long time, but they have great personnel. They've got a couple guys or a few guys in there that have played a lot of snaps that are older, that obviously seem to understand the scheme, which allows them to do a bunch. There's different ways to play defense, and they're probably all good, but they seem to do a great job of being able to execute a large volume of calls. And some of that's because they're a little bit older in the back end and at linebacker, but they're still playing with some young, talented people up front. So that's not the entirety of it all. But they do continue to mix up the looks. And, if they struggle with something, meaning if they've got a guy out of a gap, or they slant the wrong way because they're doing a large volume, it seems like their talent can kind of overcome that one little mistake, and it doesn't turn into a big mistake for them. They get the ball on the ground, and then they go play the next play. So I think in short what I'm saying is he and his staff must do a great job teaching, because they do a lot, from different personnel groups to sub packages. They're playing a little more 3-down than I don't know what they played last year, but that I remember them playing before. So a great job of mixing it up and getting it all taught.
Thank you.
Mike Barber.
Yeah, you mentioned Braxton, and I'm curious, with those injuries, where is his development, his comfort level, his readiness in terms of, do you feel good putting him in a game right now?
Sure. I mean, he's been able to be out there at practice. We haven't been able to feel good about, he gets tackled one time, and you can imagine the pain he goes through. So we've just bumped him down and put Quincy in there at 2. But Brax he's been practicing the whole time. I don't think he's missed a practice. So he's been in there, and he's been feeling good for over a week now, and I feel good about it.
And I know that you've praised your guys' character and kind of commitment before, as we've gone through stuff in the pandemic. Does it help at all that you have Clemson, such a big name opponent, that you have UVA, a rival, just to kind of keep the guys' attention here the last couple weeks?
Well, I can promise you it doesn't take long to get the attention of everybody when you turn that film on. You look at the team we're about to play. So I don't know. That helps. I know that we'll be anxious to play and prepare, and but it probably doesn't hurt that we have our biggest rival in Clemson on the docket.
Thank you.
Hank.
Hey, Justin, I know you gave a lot of the older guys much of last week off and played a lot of younger guys, some of whom you've had to rely on pretty heavily already. From a refreshing standpoint, how important was the week to kind of, I don't know, maybe celebrate on thankfulness a little bit and just kind of get away from the grind that has been this year?
Yeah, I just obviously I felt like that was more important than anything else we could do. Like we set pretty simple goals for last week on Tuesday and Wednesday to get older guys feeling better and younger guys a little bit of work. And then on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I wanted guys refreshed. So we had a great workout yesterday. If that's any indication, I think our guys feel much better. But I thought it was the most important thing we could do in the bye week. I mean, certainly we need practice, and we need to improve and all those sorts of things. But you get to the point, the law of diminishing returns comes into effect, and that's exactly what we needed. both mentally and physically. It's not just 9 games in a row. It's just, again, not to keep harping on this, the mental strain of everything that's gone on through this has been pretty difficult, and I think our guys needed a little breath of fresh air, chance to catch their breath a little bit there for a couple days.
Other than Braxton, are there any significant guys that have been missing time that benefited enough so that they're back in the mix?
I don't think so off the top of my head. I mean, we had some guys that were beat up that I think, I hope that I'll be back playing this week, and, that practiced last night that looked good. So I don't know if there's anybody that, that's going to come out of the blue that's been out for a long time that all of a sudden is ready now.
Thank you.
A couple more, Tremaine.
Coach, probably for a while, it was probably your first weekend where you didn't actually have a college football game because of Thanksgiving. Can you remember a time, was the last time you didn't have any college football game to prepare for, or a game in general to prepare for on Thanksgiving weekend?
No, the way it used to be in high school, which I always think of this on Thanksgiving, is, my high school coach, Bill Blankenship, went on to be the head coach at Tulsa, is now the head coach at Owasso High School, and I still actually just talked to him on the phone yesterday. They just got beat in the semifinals. But when we were coming up through high school, I'd never met anybody that enjoyed practicing on Thanksgiving like Coach Blankenship. And the joy of practice in the morning and fellowship afterwards was something that I grew to appreciate really through him. And, with the way it was set up back then is if you were practicing on Thanksgiving weekend, it meant you were in the semifinals. And so that was, like our first goal was to practice on Thanksgiving. In our senior year, we played in the state championship, so we got to practice on Thanksgiving. And at the time, our high school hadn't done that very much, and it was a big deal. And that's about the last time I really remember not having football on Thanksgiving was like my junior year of high school. The rest of the time, as far as I can remember, we were always preparing for a game or playing in a game. And it's just become a part of our family. Like that's just what my kids expect. That's what my wife expects. It's practice. Usually it's practice in the morning or a walkthrough. It's been a little different here because we've usually played Virginia on a Friday, so that's been the day before the game as opposed to a Saturday game. So it's usually been practice in the morning and meal with the team and then go home to relax. So it was a little odd watching everybody else go through it, but we managed to get our Christmas tree and get some decorations up.
Thanks, sir.
Norm.
Justin, Christian Darrisaw seemed to shoot down any kind of rumors on social media this past week that he might be thinking about opting out. But is he one of those guys that you just mentioned that should be available this week?
I don't know what he said on social media, Norm, but he practiced his tail off last night. So I haven't had any discussions with him otherwise. So again, with not knowing what he said on social media, I can just tell you he went out there and was our starting left tackle in practice yesterday and looked really good.
He just basically referred to any kind of mention about him opting out as, quote, fake news. So.
Oh, I got you. Well, it sounds – I don't know. Like, I know he was banged up. Like, I certainly wasn't questioning – he was banged up, and, he has been he's been an absolute warrior. I mean, he basically played over half a year on one foot a couple years ago. And I brought him in, I don't know, maybe a week and a half ago, and just said, man, like, you've earned your stripes. I trust you. When you're ready to go, let's go. And so, I don't know, he jumped in there with the one huddle and looked great yesterday.
And as you studied, had your assistants study last week, I don't know, maybe this is a little bit different year just because of the pandemic and the fact that you had to go so deep and use so many guys, and you're kind of tapped out in where you find guys for these kinds of roles. But is there anybody or you
Yeah, I mean, I think, I think Shanga Hodge has been hurt the most by this. The way the schedule fell, the time that he missed in fall camp, the way we played game after game after game. I hope that we can continue to bring him along. I've said that for many weeks now. We just haven't been able to. It's been one week after another of just playing, and he's kind of been drinking water through a fire hose. I think Raheem Blackshear's been hurt by it too. He's worked so much at running back, and then Khalil goes off and has such a productive, particularly early part of the season. Then Khalil's out, and so on and so forth. So getting Raheem and Shanga, and I'm sure there's somebody I'm forgetting, but those are two guys I think that have been hurt most by the circumstances. Through their development of being versatile and picking up what's going on and helping this team more on the stat sheet than currently. They're currently helping this football team, but I think we'd all like to get those guys helping us a little more on the stat sheet.
Time for one more. Mike Nislik, you had a follow-up?
Yeah, a couple players mentioned 2018, kind of this losing streak and that, and trying to kind of get out of it. Has there been comparisons to that? Have you felt that they're similar, or was that team so much younger that this feels different?
No, there's no comparison to this season, Mike. Like, it ain't even the same. Like, this is the most absurd thing I've ever been through. And I don't mean bad. I just mean you can't make this stuff up. And, we lost two heartbreaking football games back to back and at home that were brutal. Absolutely brutal in the midst of all this other stuff. So I don't see any parallels between this season and anything else we've ever done. It's just, to me, it's that unique.
And then did you do a first round of testing when they got back on Saturday, or did you wait till Sunday? Have you gotten those results back at all?
We have tested. We don't have the results back.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. We'll have student athletes around 11 o'clock tomorrow. Thank you.